I'll get started. I can't wait forever. What really worries me is we start the team project next week, and I'm gonna have to. I don't know what I'm gonna do with you guys because I'm not gonna be able to use the groups that I had set up because nobody's here. So I guess we'll get to that next week. So this week we are now done with our what I consider to be kind of the first half of the class, where I've given you all of the necessary tools and things to work on establishing your individual professional persona. Okay. So like I said, like I told you, especially starting next week, this class turns into a project-driven class. Okay. And meaning it's going to be your individual project and your team project. I've made available the individual project syllabus. We are going to go through that today. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things I learned on Friday at our advisory committee meeting. And then we're going to watch, kind of cap it off with a video that we did about a couple of years ago where two graduates, talked at our career symposium, and they kind of give us their stories on how they went about. But we did have an advisory committee meeting on Friday, and just so that you guys know that every semester our department meets with people who are currently working in IT and in the field. Some of them are graduates from here. Some of them are recruiters. Some of them are people obviously working in IT in the Milwaukee area, like Children's Hospital and CDW and all different places. We usually try to get about not 10 or 12 people there. We were kind of light. Sometimes it changes. I think we have a group of like 20 we draw from, so we usually never get every single one of them there. But we usually go around the room and they talk again about, again, I know I'm beating on a dead horse, but they go about and they talk about what things are going on in the Milwaukee area, trend-wise, hiring-wise, job-wise, just kind of the conditions of Milwaukee and what's happening in the IT field. And some noticeable stuff was said, which I think is important to relay to you. The first thing is that one of our recruiters that comes to us, and two recruiters are this time, and both of them confirm this, was that people who are being let go of their jobs are being let go because of their soft skills. They are not being let go because of their technical skills. Okay? It is the most important point that I've heard over and over and over again. You can be a technical guru, but if you lack soft skills and not how to approach yourself, I just tweeted something, I think yesterday or the day before, about like 6 interview questions that you should look at, what people will ask you. Like one of the questions was that when somebody comes in interviews, the people should go out and and it was written from the employer perspective, but you can obviously deduct it from the prospective candidate perspective. I should actually pull that article up. It's worth pulling up because you guys obviously aren't on Twitter enough or seeing Twitter or checking Twitter, but you will now because it'll be part of your project. But yeah, this article right here. And it kind of really hit home to me after I read it, because especially after hearing from our why can't I get to it?
I have 27 followers.
Wow. See?
One of them is Eugene Kaspersky. I don't know why.
I'm not sure why it's not coming up. Great. Well, anyways, this is the article. When it comes back, it's definitely worth the read. But it goes into the idea of one of the things employers do is they should go out and ask the receptionist how the candidate was treated them and how they, did they address them properly? Did they say thank you? Another one question that really stood out at me is employers ask the question, would this be somebody who I want to take home over the weekend and spend some time with, take home to my family or something like that? Almost like a wedding question or a spousal question. And this was all reiterated to me by these people at the advisory committee meeting, that this is what that, and if this article ever comes back up, it's a lot about likability, trust, all the stuff that I've been harping and preaching upon. And yeah, again, it's stunning when you hear from people who are in the IT field and they're saying, we want some, I mean, obviously, like I've always said, they're taking for granted you have technical skills if you graduate from our program. We've been told that hundreds and hundreds of times. It's the soft skills that they're losing people on. And even if they get let go based on, they even said that if they let somebody go, they may let them go because of technical skills, because it's just easier to do than saying, oh, you just are a crappy person, or we don't like you, or you can't work well with others, or you can't communicate. It's easier to just say, well, you didn't work out technically with us, boom. So they're even getting, the wrong impression because, again, soft skills can be one of those things where, it's harder to, people know when it's there, but it's harder to kind of totally evaluate on that. I mean, objectively. But that's just the way it is. That's the way life is. And the culture of companies it's just continually evolving. The other thing that they told me, which was striking, which I haven't heard before, was that in Milwaukee, the IT field is small, meaning once you get involved in the IT field in Milwaukee and start either making a name for yourself or not making a name for yourself, that word will travel. So it's now, again, if you plan on going out of state or whatever, fine. But in Milwaukee, if you start getting viewed as you get your first job and you get let go because you're too much of a know-it-all or you can't work well with others, well, guess what? You've now probably incredibly decreased your chances of even another job in IT at Milwaukee. Not to saying it would be impossible, but I'm just saying that talk gets around. And that's why I always have told people, cream rises to the top in this industry. Because once you get pegged as, Tony, wow, that guy's good, right? Well, now guess what? You become a commodity in the marketplace. Other companies will want to have you, maybe, and or if you demonstrate. So this is a continual process as you move forward. Okay, and I always think like I spent some time with my niece and nephew over the weekend, and I always think about age, but the thing is that if you're serious about establishing a career in here, you have to be thinking about these things early on. The people who think about them the earliest are going to be at such an advantage. But again, it's just astounding to me to hear these things go on. They also say that if you're good in the job market in IT, you'll get a job. There's just no two ways around it. If you have all these things, you'll get a job. The marketplace, it's always, she said it was a little bit slow, but it's always looking for good people. Companies are always looking for good people. Always, always, always. They also said that the culture of Milwaukee is slowly changing. And this is, I like slapping myself in the back once in a while. But when this last winter taught a lot of companies that they need to understand the culture of a more remote workforce, meaning they have to understand the ability, and this is great for IT people because a lot of things that you can do can be done remotely. You don't have to be at that place to do that. But they learned very quickly that they have to start helping employees to understand that and to thrive in that type of culture, because they had a lot of employees that were then pretty easily to transition to working at home during those snow days and cold days. So that's another skill, right? Of being able to, are you self-guided? Can you work on your own? Are you motivated? Are you, can you get things done? And the reality is like I've said this all along. I said Milwaukee's typically 5 to 7 years behind company cultures that's going out on the coast. So on the coast or big cities, Chicago, Minneapolis, the Georgia, Atlanta, whatever, companies have already been doing this and they understand the importance of it. But it's going to come to Milwaukee. Milwaukee also the interesting thing that they said is a lot of companies, especially the entrepreneur startup, Milwaukee is kind of viewed as a tech hub. I think we could do so much more to make that a better thing. But because it's an attractive city, because of the cost, there are downsides to Milwaukee. We know the downsides. Most highly segregated city in America. We can name all the bad things, and there are bad things, obviously. But they also like it a lot because of the cost of living. It's centrally located, still near Chicago, right? So, it's just a day. You can go to Chicago and come back in a day. It's not like you're going across country. It's relatively close to Minneapolis. So, I think there's, a bright future for Milwaukee. I think I think getting the DNC convention is really going to help us. I think it's going to put us even more on the map. We haven't had anything like that in Milwaukee since probably, you can think like the Super Bowl. Well, the Super Bowl's not played in Milwaukee, right? You can think of the Brewers in 1982 when they're in the ACLS.
I think that's just where to lag that.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying though is there really hasn't been anything national that has focused on Milwaukee. I guess the only thing you really can think of is sporting events, right? All right, so if the Bucks go to the finals this year, there might be more, but that's still a very small segment of people who would care about that. Where the DNC convention is it's plastered everywhere. It's going to be on everything. So I think that's really going to help Milwaukee. So I've always get very encouraged by some of the things that we hear and talk about. The last thing, and this probably only applies to one person in here, is women. So. Because we were talking about how I would like to see, we have diversity in our classrooms from race to age and all that, but where we lack diversity is gender. So I think in my classes this semester, in my classes that I'm teaching, excluding my online classes, I think I only have you. Well, there's other women in here, but they're not coming to class. There were some other women in my ITNet 110 class, and they're not coming to class. So the other exciting thing, and this is, I'm telling all of you this because if you know women or you have girlfriends or sisters or whoever, that this field is thirsty for them, for women in the workplace. And they said there's problems. It still can be kind of a good old boys club at times, but for a strong, motivated woman, you're at an advantage. You're at an advantage over the men because the workforces in the major companies in Milwaukee are looking for that diversity. And I always think our classes benefit by more gender diversity in our classes, but it's a tough thing to do and it's a tough thing to crack. I think when we go to guided pathways and we fall under STEM and we're associated with STEM, I think that's going to be an easier path to follow to try to find people who want to be in this program. So a lot of cool stuff, interesting stuff that was talked about at the meeting. And it just always reaffirms this class and the purpose of this class, which is to get you to understand and think about these things. I told them I don't think I'm always successful, but I try my best. They were very encouraging. I think I'm very proud of the fact that we've been doing this now for the last 7 or 8 years. We are way ahead of the curve on this. And in the end, this is up to you to implement. I'm giving you all the tools, all the suggestion, all the advice, and this is up to you to implement. And so when you see the individual project syllabus today, you have the next 7, 8 weeks to kind of go full in. And again, this I don't think this class has been assignment heavy. Part of me we don't even have an assignment this week. We'll have another assignment next. We only have 4 more assignments left. But you need to be now, when you see the syllabus, you need to be cultivating and creating and sustaining your individual personal persona, because now you have kind of the 3 legs, the legs to the stool: LinkedIn, your blogger, and Twitter. And those are kind of the three things that you're going to want to be engaged, active on, especially LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, the more you get engaged, the more people you connect to on LinkedIn, the more engaged, the more you're going to get noticed. Okay. And the more likely somebody's going to reach out and contact you and say, hey, I want to talk to you. Okay. And that's going to make your life just a hell of a lot easier in the end.
I can point out that this has already been working out, like the resume building skills we did, just talking about interpersonal networking. I'm jumping up from retail to manufacturing down in 2 weeks now because of the resume I put together for this class. I was working with some other people to get in.
Awesome. Yep. So the other fun news, as you kind of guessed, I'm kind of an Apple fanboy. Yeah. So Apple had a conference, a presentation yesterday, not about hardware, but about their services. So they are coming out with a credit card. The video is online. You can go to Apple's website if you want to watch the keynote. They're coming out with a credit card, which it really isn't that great of a credit card, but one of the things that Apple is continuing to stress, and if you watch their conference, they're talking about privacy and security. That's what they're talking about. So they're talking about this ability. So using this card, this credit card that they're coming out with will not have a number on it, will not have your signature on it. They'll be in titanium. And they want you to use Apple Pay is what they really want you to do. But Apple Pay is the most secure way to do a credit transaction. So what they're trying to do is reduce the fraud, reduce the ability of fraud, identity theft, all this kind of stuff. And if you watch their conference yesterday, what they keep saying is, this credit card won't sell your information. They won't use it for advertising. Everything is basically a knock at the other business model, which is advertisement, selling your data. And so Apple always keeps coming back with, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I've always said, if you take personal security, I don't really want to have this argument now, but if you take personal security as something that's important to you, you'd be on an Apple device. You would not be on an Android device. And that's just a fact. And I'm not going to argue, but you can look it up and whatever. Apple Pay is, again, another really great way to avoid, because it's creating a one-time token with your credit card. You're not really even giving them your number. So they take all this, all the security on the phone, how things are stored, not shared, all this stuff. So you can kind of see this battle heating up between the services, and Apple's trying to turn your device into this one-shop place where basically it provides you all of this. And Apple's always been very good at taking an existing idea and making it more user-friendly and seamless while protecting all of that stuff. Now, again, you can have, I don't really want to get into an argument, but it's true. They don't do this. Their business model is not to sell your data, right? That's not their business model. Their business model is to sell you hardware and now these services. Go ahead. Yeah, so the other cool thing is like the app. So the app is here, and basically it's a cash back card. It's not like that great of a reward. 2 points isn't that great on a lot of cards. When I use a Costco card typically, and I think we get 3. What ends up happening in a credit card marketplace, if you're using credit cards the correct way, is not credit. Then you just look for the rewards. So that's all you do. But yeah, they give you a running tally, and you get money back right away. So you spend money on Apple Pay, go buy something at Starbucks, and it'd be like $10, and they give you 20 cents, and you see the 20 cents pop up, and then that is your cash, and you can either pay down your balance or you can pay with it. I mean, if you gain enough, you could actually use it as. I mean, I don't know what difference it would make, but there, it's just these little bells and whistles tracking money, tracking your expenditures. I mean, it looks really cool. I mean, the other thing that they kind of they talked about was no late fee. Now, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Like, okay, no late fee. Well,
I like the late payment.
Yeah, late payment. So if you made a late payment, they usually tack on it. So most credit cards would have a minimum payment that you'd have to make. And if you don't make that make that minimum payment, they charge you a late fee. And most banks make a lot of their money on late fees. So now, what does that mean? What if you're they didn't really address it. Like, what's a non-payment fee? Like, eventually they're going to have to do something to you to get you to pay it. But they also have a cool slider on there that shows like how much you pay and how much you interest, and all this much more transparency to what you're seeing. So I think it's cool, and I'll get one. I'm sure. Well, but this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to break into the services business. So they also then announced the Apple TV app, which is going to be coming to Roku and Fire TV, which will congregate all your services and shows, which is kind of already there in Apple TV. It's just that it's not on the other ones. They also talked about a gaming subscription service called Arcade, which you pay and you get like access to 1,000 games. Yeah, but those are different games. Yeah. So, and then they also then talked about their TV streaming service, which they want to compete with Netflix. Obviously, I don't know how they're going to compete with Netflix. I'm absolutely astounded that every time I turn on Netflix, there's like 13 different things that are new. I mean, it's almost like it's too much. And the other thing, if there's any programmers in here, what you should be doing, you should try to work and figure out a better interface for the Netflix app, especially on like other devices, because it sucks. Like TV. No, it's better on mobile. It's better on like an iPad or a phone. That I can live with. But on like an Apple TV or a Roku TV or a PlayStation or whatever it is, when you're watching it through that on a TV, I don't know what maybe on a smart TV, but their interface needs to be improved. There needs to be a better way to get to content, find content, all that kind of stuff. So if you're a programmer, that's what I would be doing, coming up with and then mailing it to Netflix and get hired by Netflix, because that needs improvement. So just some cool stuff. And again, some stuff that I always look for and talk, if you're not seeing it on Twitter, remember you can always click and engage with me on my feed. I'm not posting very much to IT 107. I'm typically posting to Tony at MATC. So that's that. Okay, the syllabus, your project. So, like I said, this now turns into this project-driven class. So there's going to be 4 more assignments. One of those assignments, the last assignment, is actually a 2-4 because it's creating your presentation for your individual project. Okay, and your individual project is going to consist of you're going to create a folder, and you're going to put everything in that folder, and then you're going to submit that folder. Okay, to the project submissions tabs in Blackboard. So once you've created that folder, you would go to Blackboard. Oops, I have to make this available. You would go to project submissions, and here is where, you would submit the link to the folder that's going to contain all this stuff that you're creating as you go and build your individual project. Okay. So remember, you'll see here, your individual project is worth 300 points. So this is a big part of your grade. Okay. It's creating this project. And what it's going to consist of is a couple of different things. So you're going to submit all the stuff that you did this week into the folder. I mean, you're going to put your resume, your cover letter, The stuff that you did this week is going to be put in there. Now, you can wait a while because I'll be going through them in the next couple of weeks, and I'll leave you comments or whatever. And obviously, you can keep improving upon your cover, especially your resume. Not so much, I don't really care about your cover letter because that's going to change, and I don't think they're that important. But that's just my personal opinion. And then you're going to create you're going to create this. You're going to kind of use this document to guide you in writing. So all of your information in your project will include some of this stuff. Okay, and what this is just a guide on how to write your final, what we would call a report. Okay, but your best examples are here. So I've given you examples of other people's reports. Okay, so this one is by Carol, who's one of it's 30 pages. This was to show you what somebody who is really motivated and awesome and wrote this report. Now, again, does your report have to be 30 pages? No. Do I give a page limitation? No. But typically, you're going to write a report that's between 8 to 10 pages. Okay, that's typically with graphs, graphics, screenshots, those kind of things. Okay, so as far as written text, I mean, even though this is 30 pages, a lot of it is taken up by screenshots and things like this. So this is if you're looking for the Cadillac of a individual project report, Carol works at Johnson Controls. She's she came back to school when she was probably in her late 40s. She got her networking degree. She got her security degree. She's moved up constantly at Johnson Controls. I forget what her exact title is. I just saw her on Friday. I stay in touch with her. She's one of my all-time favorite students that I've ever had, and just a great person. And she's just continually moved up at Johnson Controls. So this is one report. This is another one, and this is probably one that would be more like what most of you will end up writing. So Alex is the guy who got the job at Cisco in the Internet of Things. So this is a good idea of what I'm looking for. Okay. So, and then I give you another one by Michael Phelan. His is a little bit more out there. You know Michael? Michael Phelan. Oh. So he's got this. But again, I've given you three kind of varied ideas on how to write this report. So this report would be put in the folder, and that would go alongside all the other documentation. If you kind of look at Alex's one, he has it linked to his stuff at the end. So like I can click here and I can go to his Twitter profile. And this is really a nice way to do it. I can click here and I can go to his LinkedIn profile if I was logged into LinkedIn, right? I can go, and he did some stuff. He did a Tumblr blog. Again, probably not there anymore, but he whatever blog he used would be on here. All those links, and that's kind of all included in that professional persona doc. So these three examples give you the best idea of what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's going to be your report document. So this is something you're going to write and hand in, put it in your folder at the end. And this is what I'm going to look at. Then you are also going to create a presentation, which you don't have to worry about yet. So you're going to get up here on the second last day of class, and you're going to have a presentation. We'll go over this later. And you're going to give the presentation of the creation of your project. Okay? What did you do? What worked?